The idea of being able to kill a baby after it's born, I don't want my tax dollars going for that. I know, but this bill doesn't have language to stand that. You start talking about ACA, you can go off the rail and start talking about ACA and start saying all this. I mean, my gentleman from California a while ago saying as an employer that he complained about healthcare prices. Well, let me tell you, as a current employer, you ought to pay those healthcare prices now with ACA. My employees that I have currently, because I'm still an employer, their biggest complaint that they have about ACA is that their coverage sucks. It doesn't cover anything. Their premiums are off the chart because it does nothing. You want to talk about ACA prices? Let's do something about it. We start talking about bipartisanship from the gentleman from New Mexico. What have you proposed that's actual serious about a bipartisan approach? I want to fix it too. No one in this place doesn't want to fix it. We want to fix it, but all we see is just Republicans are bad and Democrats are bad. No, if I did, I would already tell you. You already had your time to talk.
Well,
at the same time, we start talking about.
Mention my name. I was hoping the gentleman
I said I wasn't going to yield to you. You can shut up now. Now
you strike the gentleman's word.
Point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order, Mr. Point of order. Point of order.
If you try talking over me, you can. I'm not going to sit here and.
Point of order. Point of order.
Point of order.
Point of order. Point of order.
I still have time to talk.
Point of order. The clock will stop.
Here we have Republican Congressman Mullen from Oklahoma calling out his Democratic colleague, New Mexico's Ben Ray Lujan, asking him what he's proposed in terms of bipartisan fixes to the ACA. When Lujan tries to respond after being called out by name, Mullen tells him to shut up because, as we've learned lately, decorum is very important to Republicans. But aside from resorting to bullying tactics, Mullen undermines his entire argument with baseless attacks about killing babies after they're born. To be clear, no one, literally no one, in the Democratic Party is advocating for post-birth abortion. This is a GOP talking point that Republicans like Mullen have been forced to fall back onto because they have no policy to campaign off of heading into 2020. Everything Republicans are doing pulls underwater. From their tax bill to Trump's illegal national emergency to refusing to release the Mueller report to their constant attacks on Obamacare. So because they campaign on those things, they've opted to just lie to their base that Democrats are executing babies in the emergency room. That whole baseless concept is derived from a bill called the Born Alive Abortion Survivors Protection Act that didn't pass the Senate but was cooked up by Republicans to solve the essentially non-existent problem of babies surviving an abortion procedure. And despite the fact that this bill doesn't apply to anyone, Republicans used it to then claim that anyone voting against it is in favor of infanticide or post-birth abortion. In other words, it's a political stunt. And it doesn't matter to Republicans that experts have already debunked the phenomenon. Elizabeth Nash, senior state issues manager at the Guttmacher Institute, said, "When you're providing abortion care, this isn't something that happens." Planned Parenthood President Leanna Wen explained that the legislation is essentially a misinformation campaign to criminalize a practice that doesn't even exist in medicine or reality. In reality, doctors are required by federal law to provide care to infants born alive even after an attempted abortion. It is and always has been a crime not to. But then acknowledging that would mean disregarding a political talking point, so. But besides tired lies like this one, there's something especially ironic about any Republicans bashing the ACA. And that's because while Republicans criticize it, they put nothing forward to replace it. In fact, the reason it failed in the Senate last time was because it was just what was called skinny repeal. Skinny repeal was a desperate solution thrown together by Republicans to kneecap Obamacare. Republicans voted on it before it was even properly analyzed by the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office for its impact on the economy. And we're talking about something that takes up a fifth of our entire economy. The CBO did ultimately estimate its impact before the vote and found that it would leave 16 million fewer people uninsured over the next decade and would raise premiums by about 20%. And it was opposed by doctors, medical organizations, and insurance groups around the country, who warned that it would completely destabilize the healthcare system. Skinny repeal might have repealed parts of Obamacare, like the individual mandate, the employer mandate, and the so-called Cadillac tax, but it didn't actually replace anything. So Republicans like Mullen can complain about how bad it is, but lawmakers on the right still haven't figured out how to actually do anything about it. Might I suggest that Mullen call his rep in Congress and demand some action?